Good morning, everyone. I am recording these because I am not able to go and attend class this morning. Nevertheless, I hope that I am still able to cover all the necessary things I informed you about in the discussions of the past days. This morning, we will only recap chapters 1, 2, and 3 in accordance with the outline of the Philippine Air Force Officer School. But I'm still, but my goal in this today's class is to basically push that a little bit forward by sorry, by trying to demonstrate how it's done and what are the options that I have in mind in order for it to happen. So I'm pre-recording this one, and I hope that everybody gets to uh, recognize the processes that are in place. So the first thing that I have to think of is what topic to basically review, or what topic do I really want to work on. And upon reading and searching in the internet, I can search, for example, about topics that I want to uh, work on. And today I'd like to look at critical infrastructure. What are critical infrastructures, um, especially in security critical infrastructures? So, what are critical security infrastructures? So, when you look at it, critical infrastructure refers to assets, systems, and networks, which can be physical or even virtual, so that is so vital that their incapacitation would severely impact national security, defense, economy, or even public safety for that matter. And there are a lot, no? Major Jose, for example, worked on energy, but also control and command, also physical plants, infrastructures are also things to take into consideration. But for my purposes, I'd like to specifically consider, for example, the Philippine Air Force and what are critical infrastructure for Philippine Air Force. And when I look at the Philippine Air Force, for example, I'd look at its strong reliance on command, control, communications, computer, intelligence, and reconnaissance. Um, so C for a star or C for ISR, for example, um, is very important in order for us to monitor our airspace or even to secure sovereignty. And in fact, I was telling you, C for ISR is the paper CRISPR, and C for ISR is the paper of Colonel Mariano in his MNSA. But and this is why we have to take into consideration what are the critical assets in the Air Force, like air defense radar systems, satellite and communication networks, aircraft with advanced avionics and network integration, and logistics and maintenance IT systems. These are, of course, very important under the AFP Modernization Act or Republic Act 10349. And maybe we can look at the PAP's horizon phases that emphasize on radar, air defense, surveillance capabilities. And whether we like it or not, all of these are dependent on digital infrastructure. And therefore, I'd like to look at specifically critical military infrastructure, no, for that matter. So I'd look at I have a something of interest in critical infrastructure, but that's a very broad topic for sure. And therefore, what do? I basically look at literatures that are available about critical infrastructure, and then most probably I look at cybersecurity, no? The aspect of cybersecurity. Of course, I am doing this today, August 17, and it's actually 9:10 in my watch. Um, and what you have to pay attention to is that I'm hoping I'm not overstepping on somebody else and interest, but just demonstrating you what are the possible sources there. Of course, cybersecurity threat in is very important because of adversaries increasingly targeting critical military infrastructures. We have NATO cyber intrusions, US defense contractor breaches, or malware like Stuxnet prove, for example, vulnerabilities in military industry systems. So there's a bigger picture. In Southeast Asia, um, cyber espionage and attacks are rising, often state sponsored, aimed at sensitive defense and government networks. In the Philippines, for example, data breaches and hacking incidents against government agencies are very clear. PhilHealth, the ICT portals reveal systematic vulnerabilities that could even extend to military systems if not addressed. In fact, we know of one that there was a data breach at a certain point. And interestingly, the National Cybersecurity Plan of 2023 to 2028 recognizes the risk to government networks, but often offers limited military specific directives. Studies in UPCIDS in 2025 points out that Philippine defense strategies recognize cyber threats. In fact, we recognize it in the national security national security policy. We recognize it in fact, we've stated it in the National Security Strategy of 2018, the National Defense Strategy of 2018 to 2022, or even the National Military Strategy of 2019, where we recognize cyber threats, but often emphasize technical defenses rather than strategic integration of cyber power into military operations there. So when we look at it from that perspective, then we come to a point wherein we recognize maybe there's a need to look at that one. Maybe it's very important to look at operational or strategic or even national security matters. So that's the reason why I'd like to look at cybersecurity. Looking at the internet, of course, there are a few sources that we can recourse to. Specifically, one that pertains or the one that concerns national security. For example, we have the National Security Plan of the ICT, the UPCIDS in Technology with Trust, Cybersecurity and Philippine National Security. It's a discussion paper, Balikatan 25 Cybersecurity Exercises. The in academia.edu, there's cybersecurity vulnerabilities in the Philippine context, and the ASP Strategic Analyst, a National Defense Strategy for the Philippines. So there are existing literatures, and based on this one, I can actually already start generating the rationale, the justification why this paper will matter. No, so initially I'd look at critical infrastructure, but now you'd see that I have to zero in, or I'm zeroing in already to cybersecurity. This is what happens when you are trying to figure out a topic. Um, and and specifically when you're trying to focus a topic, and I'd like to understand, for example, um, certain cybersecurity challenges in the Philippine context, but more so cybersecurity implications to the Philippine Air Force. As I said a while ago, this will play a very important role. So for example, if I'd like to emphasize the Philippine Air Force, then I can look at cyber security vulnerabilities in the Philippine Air Force systems that could have severe operational consequences, including disruption of command and control, navigation interference, and breaches of intelligence systems. And externally, adversaries gaining access to PAF networks could compromise national air defense posture and even operational security. And therefore, there, strategically, such attacks can erode deterrence by exposing classified assets and undermining public trust in air defense capabilities. Given this very important role of the Air Force to territorial surveillance, disaster response, and humanitarian assistance, cyber breaches like these could hamper critical government functionality during crisis. Because of that topic, I can now push forward. I can now say I already have a topic in mind. And what is the topic that I have in mind? Technically, I'm interested with um, cybersecurity, but it's specifically cybersecurity vulnerabilities in the critical structure of the Philippine Air Force. No, and that's something that I can work on because so the simple title can be assessing cybersecurity vulnerabilities in the critical infrastructure of Philippine Air Force, or better yet, we can actually just talk about cyber vulnerabilities in critical infrastructures of the Philippine Air Force and just remove assessing. Later on, you'd see that titles like this, whether you are able to assess it and the like, will depend largely on what we are able to do in the long run. But at least now we have a topic in mind. Uh, and based on that topic, we can start thinking about general statement of the problem. Uh, and as I said, we can now look at what general statement of the problem can we bring about in relation to this one. So here you will see uh, that there are different implementations, and therefore we still need to consider what and we can ask what is the thesis statement at this phase. And the thesis statement is actually what we are pushing forward. And so there are many ways to argue for the thesis statement. We can look at, for example, a very diagnostic representation of this thesis statement. And the very diagnostic statement will look like something like this. So if this is the title, we can actually argue for a very diagnostic um, general statement of the problem. And remember, the general statement of the problem is a one-liner. No, this is the thesis statement, and we can say, if I'm interested with cybersecurity vulnerabilities in critical infrastructures of the Philippine Air Force, I can say the study argues or assesses. We can use the term that I said we should not use. Um, the study assesses uh, the critical infrastructure of the Philippine Air Force. Assesses the critical infrastructure of the Philippine Air Force uh, that is increasingly vulnerable to cyber threats due to outdated systems, relying on fallen and gaps in organization cyber defense policies, thereby undermining operational readiness and national security. Of course, these title points to critical infrastructure and therefore will eventually necessitate the definition of critical infrastructure. So, do I really like, sorry, my battery says I have to plug it already or else it will die. and I have to push it a little bit back because my plug is very far. But never mind. I just need to move my water and things like that. So when we look at it from this perspective, you realize what is really the interest of the paper, or is the paper interested with cyber security vulnerabilities in the Philippine Air Force? I think we can still delimit uh, the paper to cybersecurity vulnerabilities. Let's look at that. Yes, we can in fact say that the paper is delimited to the examination of cybersecurity uh, vulnerabilities, and therefore, when we say we're only interested with that, uh, we can actually zero in already to the scope and the limitation of the study. So yes, on the one hand, we can do the scope and the limitation of the study. And when we write the scope and the limitation of the study, we can basically say that the paper is actually interested only with cybersecurity, um, or delimited. The study is delimited, no need to use specifically, is delimited to the examination of cybersecurity vulnerabilities in the critical, and it will focus on digital and network-based systems, control logistic platforms, aircraft avionics that are directly linked to the PAP's operational readiness. But technically, no, it's also worth saying that the things that we are dealing with at this point, all of these are still very huge. In fact, you can only work with radar installations, command and control systems is already very huge. But it's a good paper to look into, and that you're not interested with vulnerabilities in the other branches, civilian government agencies, and the like, but only the Philippine Air Force, or that you're not interested with non-cyber security related risks like physical security, kinetic threats, tactical or strategic doctrines, and then like that. So this is a very good delimitation of the study, or scope and delimitation of the study already. And anyway, you'll have a copy of this presentation, no? So going back, so we can look at already that the study assess the critical infrastructure of the that is increasingly vulnerable to cyber threats. We can actually remove the other, but we can actually, so we've identified outdated system, reliance on foreign, and gaps in organizational defense policies, thereby undermining operational readiness and national security. So you can keep it as is if that's the general statement of the problem. We can now try to identify the specific statements of the problem, no? So what is the specific statements of the problem? That's the next question that we are going to look into, no? So if this is a problem focused thesis statement or a general statement of the problem, uh, we can actually try to identify what the specific statements of the problems are. And we said that the specific statements of the problem should constitute a described component where there is where you can basically find the concept and dimensions, uh, the evaluate part, and in this case, we are looking at vulnerabilities, and therefore we identify vulnerabilities vis-a-vis the dimensions in SOP1. So do not forget SOP1 is the described component, and then evaluate is actually SOP2. And then the last one, SOP3, are strategies to address the vulnerabilities in SOP2, as we said last time. So this is where you see how the general statement of the problem can be articulated or clarified a little bit further, no? So we can look at, for example, the question, what is the what uh, for the problem number one, I'd like it to be, what is the status of what is the status of the cyber security vulnerabilities in terms of A, technical, B, organizational, C, human, and D, policy related concerns. So let's see. Mm, yes. Uh, okay, let's define these concepts then. So, for example, if that is the general statement of the problem, we now articulate something which I said should be correlated there, no? So this is where it becomes a little bit difficult, because if you have that concept already there, we start defining, or we start determining how, what the general statement of the problem are, no? And as I said, the general statement of the problem will look something like these, no? So in this case, we're interested with the status of cybersecurity vulnerabilities in clinical infrastructures. And take note, we're looking at technical, and by technical, we refer to these concept vulnerabilities in hardware, organizational gaps in the structure, if there's gaps in the structure, leadership, institutional cyber defense, human, we can talk about weaknesses arising from behaviors, and also policy related, like limitations of existing structures and things like that. So we of course, here you can already see vulnerabilities that can be identified in terms of technical and things like that. But we need to get an idea first what these standards are. And the standards are basically, as you've seen here, I I can even go as far as removing all of those definitions, and still the paper will stand, no? The paper will make sense even if I remove that. Uh, and then, so if that's the problem number one, what is the problem number two? Problem number two can have something to do with, bakit ayaw niya na nag-adjust siya? Doon gusto. Never mind. Two, what are the cybersecurity vulnerability? So status first of cybersecurity vulnerabilities, and then what are the vulnerabilities? Maybe what are the vulnerabilities maybe we can say, we can. Mm, let's look at okay. So we can, instead of what are the vulnerabilities, we can basically ask, how do these vulnerabilities affect the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of PAF systems? Um, and then we can go to the third question. And because we started with the how question here, we can also raise the third question, what strategies can be formulated to address the identified vulnerabilities? Or actually, we maybe instead of asking a how question, we can because the first question is a status anyway. Maybe we can ask what specific vulnerabilities are there in the critical infrastructure. Uh, so, of course, that would mean going back to problem number two, no? Problem number one. So what is the status of the security vulnerabilities, and what specific vulnerabilities exist? And then what strategies can be formulated? When we already have this statement of the problem, or even as we construct the statement of the problem, we can actually have try to outline already the RRL, and that's where the RRL side will take precedence. And here you will have first critical infrastructure. That's the introduction, maybe. And then we can have cybersecurity vulnerabilities, and then dimensions of that. Then we can look at technical, let's copy instead para hindi na ako. So I'm not retyping everything because that is suicidal from my end. So this is how it will look like, technical. So looking at the statement of the problem will take these format. So wait, just to give you an overview. So first, dimensions of cyber security vulnerabilities, and then you can have ABC, where ABC refers to the dimensions of cybersecurity, right? So, and then after that, we can look at specific vulnerabilities in the critical infrastructure, in the cybersecurity uh, in the cybersecurity. This is problem number 2. And then we can look at A. Let's just copy this because this is the format that we will take there. And then under A, do not forget, even if it says A there, there's to be at least 2 identified cybersecurity instances. So there, this is how you basically write your RRL, and this is how your RRL will look like if if uh if I'm looking at it right now. So there, and then we can look at strategies. Strategies to address the identified cybersecurity vulnerabilities. Dapat pala ito CV lang. Vulnerabilities. So this is how, and then we take the same format here. Now, this is how the outline will look like specifically. And so this is the outline of the, let's move back. This is the outline of the RRL. Technically, when you present, this is how it will look like, no? In the RRL. And what you have to pay attention to is the alignment, no? Cybersecurity, sorry, even my spelling is wrong. It's the alignment of the two. CV. Okay. So, so those are the two things you need to pay attention to. So next is to check whether the statement of the problem and the outline matches, right? And here we have to look at what is the statement of the problem and do we have an RRL, no? Uh, that's what we have to look at. We need to correlate the specific statements of the problem and see if there is outline that will happen along those lines, and what are the things that we need to consider, no? So for example, if you think I'm this is a study already, in reality this is not a study. This is something that we are still constructing and building, no? So for example, if I am to reconstruct based on this one and I have to reconstruct the outline properly, or I will, if I want to put what should be there, so this is how it will look like, no? In detail, I can basically says I can for I have to map it one by one according to the vulnerabilities even, no, of problem number one, no? So now I have to identify what are the specific vulnerabilities, and I have to look at it in terms of technical there. I have to look at it in terms of organizational there also, human and policy related. But this has to be, wait, wait, up, hindi three. One dapat to. Dali, sandali. Yan. Wait lang. So here you see already how these each one will constitute a particular set of literatures, ha? But look at the alignment, and I'll emphasize it in a bit, no? So when you look at strategies to address the CV, you can look at it also. So again, no, there, there. Thank God for the whiteboard organizing the texts as so there. Yun. Okay, so we can look at, for example, the statement of the problem. What is the status of the cybersecurity vulnerabilities in critical infrastructures? And we're looking at three areas here. Specifically, we're looking at technical, that's the dimension of the concept, specific vulnerabilities that exists, and strategies that can be formulated. So we can look at it actually in detail, no? We can look at it in detail. So for example, let's move this one to, let's change it. So for problem number one, for example, this is problem number one, we look at first critical infrastructure, we look at cybersecurity vulnerabilities, and the dimensions of the CV in terms of technical, organizational, human, and policy-related ones. And then when we look at specific, specific vulnerabilities, then we can look at the RRL in terms of specific vulnerabilities. Allow me to color this blue so that it's clear to you. And the specific vulnerabilities under technical, if this is the definition, look at it, vulnerability of radar and command, organizational lack of centralized military cyber doctrine, low cyber hygiene for human or national security. And then when we look at the third here, this will point to this section. And when it points to that section, which I will color red for the meantime, I want you to emphasize the alignment between the first and two. No, so for example, I'll still color it red, but if you say vulnerability of radar jamming, is that related to upgrading the legacy system? Let's not color it. Let's color it green. So that the alignment is just clear, that you have to check whether your one there is aligned with your I below. Your two here is aligned to the two below. And let's just continue up. Sorry. Doing the alignment, your three here is connected to that. Your four here is connected to that. The alignment must be very clear, no? You cannot say, it's automatic, they will figure it out. No, they will never figure it out. So it's your task as the researcher to figure this out, to show that there is an alignment, and that you're not simply inventing it, but the alignment, the one-to-one correspondence is there. Uh, of course, we did spoke already about you being careful, that this is not siloed, no? And therefore you need to look at what are the existing literature along these lines, no? What are the uh, uh, what are the things that we need to pay attention to? So, for example, what are the key sources, no? So thematically, we said organize the sources thematically following the SOP, no? So so when you thematically organize the SOP, for example, we can look at what are the texts that we can deal with, no? So we can look at okay, um So we can actually identify, dapat lahat 'yan, in all of those you can identify, no? For example, critical infrastructure. What is the RRL to critical infrastructure? You cannot say, oh, there's no RRL to critical infrastructure. No, there has to be an RRL to critical infrastructure. So for example, in this case, what what are the what are the RRL in terms of critical infrastructure? So we can I can provide, for example, to. So on the one hand, for critical infrastructure alone, I can identify two sources, and let me cover the two sources, no? This one. So this one is actually about critical infrastructure specifically. How about documents on cybersecurity vulnerabilities? And when we start talking about cybersecurity vulnerabilities, there has to be also literature. You cannot say, oh, there's no literature about this one because I'm still researching. No, if you're still researching, you cannot even put it in the statement of the problem. Do not forget that. But I can identify, for example, this literature. Uh, that's and there. So, can I change the color? Dapat pwede. Hindi yata pwede. Ah, nawala. Never mind. As long as it's blue. So you see there are texts, no? Like this one, intrusions and things like that. So there are sources to each of this one. But as I said to you, the more difficult part are these sources. Oh, nawala yung kuryente. Yung aking lamp. Kaya dumilim bigla from where I am. There. So pay attention here. And remember, for each of the vulnerabilities, you have to identify that. So, but then also, we can start. So there is literature already. Once you have organized all the literature, you can complete all the other parts, no? So for significance of the study, we can look at the beneficiaries of the study, and we can look at who will benefit from this one. No, what are the significance of the study? And as I said, you can do it specific to general, but I'd rather do it general to specific. I specific to general, no? So we already have a background of the study. Now we look at the general statement of the problem. So all that I'm doing today is to show to you how you're going to move forward in the next days when you're doing these sections, no? So for example, this is a good significance of the study on cybersecurity vulnerabilities is significant in several respects. One, for the Philippine Air Force and the Armed Forces of the Philippines, the study provides the path with a clearer understanding of its existing cybersecurity vulnerabilities across technical, organizational, human, and policy-related dimensions. And the findings inform decision makers in developing a dedicated cyber defense strategy aligned with AFP modernization programs and things like that. So, as I said, this topic is purely hypothetical from my end, no? I'm not aware of anything. I'm just doing research, open access lang lahat. Second, for national security policy makers, there's to contribute to effective implementation of the national security plan, bridge gaps between national security and policy. And then for academic community and future researchers, the study adds to the limited body of local literature, blah, blah, blah. And then it continues. So you can pause the pre-recorded lecture and check how to basically write the significance of the study. So we're done with problem number 1, no? For problem number 1, technically we have already a interest on that, but we can still search, no? For example, cyber security, we can do a citing incidents. So we can basically check threats exposure, no? And a good example there is one in early 2025, just the beginning, and it's in the news. They said the Philippine Army came under a cyber attack reportedly by a hacking group, Exodus Security, which allegedly breached military network systems, while data breach accuracy is still not verifiable. Of course, that's one. Second, during the Balikatan again, we just last April and May, we participated in a cyber defense exercise, CyDex, simulating defense of critical infrastructure systems like telecommunications against cyber attacks. And also the recent analysis highlights PRC linked cyber intrusions targeting various governmental agencies like the Coast Guard or the President's Office is something that we have to pay attention to. And therefore, proven vulnerabilities in similar AFP units. This suggests that the PAF infrastructure, such as the C4ISR systems, radar networks, and avionics systems, may be equally exposed. That's one. Second, operational collaboration and training, like CyDex in Balikatan 2025, highlights both capabilities and critical gaps in defending cyber-dependent systems. And then the evolving cyber doctrine. So I have to be able to rationalize why this is important, why this matters, and things like that, no? And we need to pay attention at that because this is the context why this is important. Of course, do not forget to put your citations, but for purposes of example, I'm not putting any citations in this because, as I said, this is semi-real. So if we look at it from this statement, you'd realize that we just produced, for example, the background of the study. We only need to create the background of the study. And here, in the background of the study, we can actually already clarify what the study is about, no? So at this point, the study is about, wait. So first, the Philippine Air Force critical infra, including its digital command and control systems, surveillance networks, network avionics, faces mounting cybersecurity risks. Recent cyber threats against AFP counterparts, such as the Army's alleged network breach by Exodus Security, underscore the likelihood that similar vulnerabilities exist within the PAP system. The AFP CyDex exercise during Balikat demonstrates both the utility and urgency of defending cyber-enabled infrastructures, blah, 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 blah. So such a study is vital to safeguarding operational integrity and therefore the study then from the background of the study, you can now raise the statement of the problem. And then specifically, you can answer these questions. And then based on that, you can look at the delimitation of the study and also the significance of the study. That's chapter 1 already, at least in draft form. This is where chapter 2 begins. Technically, this is your background of the study, no? This is the background of the study. And then from the background of the study, we can basically try to articulate. So you have to identify that. And then we can look at, actually, we can look at synthesis and gaps in literature already at this point. So we can let's look at that. Sa minute. So we have to identify and synthesis gap. So we can identify certain gaps in literature, in fact. So for example, when you look at statement of the problem number 1, let me just, so if this is the literature for problem number 1, no? Let me combine them together so that you have an idea that we're talking about synthesis and problems for problem number 1. We can now identify what is the synthesis of what can we synthesize from this. And here we can put the synthesis. And in synthesizing, we can identify per statement of the problem. No? In this case, this is problem number 1. So here we can look at synthesis number 1. Uh, so this is the status of cybersecurity vulnerabilities. And for the synthesis for the status of cybersecurity vulnerabilities, we can say the literature establishes that critical infrastructure in military context is heavily dependent on digital and ICT systems. Globally, vulnerabilities in CI stem from emerging technologies, as well as weaknesses in industrial control systems. Regionally, study shows that command and control networks, avionics, and aviation are prime targets for cyber attacks. Locally, reports confirm that the Philippines already experienced cyber intrusions targeting intelligence data, pointing to national level exposure. Scholars further categorize vulnerabilities into technical, organizational, human, and policy dimensions. Technical challenges arise from outdated avionics systems and avionics systems. There again, it's a repetition. And then gap while literature discuss, so you can take note, this is just you can just do continuous statement even if you just put it this way. While literature discusses these vulnerabilities broadly, there is little empirical assessment of how they manifest specifically within the Philippine Air Force infrastructure, leaving a contextual gap in military cybersecurity scholarship for the Philippines. That's a synthesis for problem number 1. And then we can look at also synthesis for problem number 2. But take note, you have to conduct the mid step, and the mid step is these, the identification of the literatures. Of course, if you don't have literatures, there's no way you can basically arrive at the synthesis and gaps. But if I will just put so that you have an idea that the synthesis in gaps is just a matter of one paragraph lang. No, this is one paragraph alone. No, so for example, this is the synthesis for problem number 2. Uh, and problem number 2 is specific vulnerabilities. And under specific vulnerabilities, of course, we can look at it again, the gap level you can basically get rid of and just go right straight. But there, research on radar and command system shows to proofing, ganyan. So here you see already organizationally, on the human side, and then on the policy side, no? Finally at the policy level there. And then, of course, the final check to this one is the vulnerabilities in terms of scholarship, or in terms of syntheses and gaps. This is the that concern, and then you can actually uh put it here, uh there. So those are the syntheses there. For 3, this is the strategies to address the specific the vulnerabilities. And then you can and then when you already have all of those, you have that is the synthesis part. And then the next one will be the CV, no? As I said, at the end of the day, the mark of a good paper is whether so the next one is the CV, no? So, but as I said, the mark of a good paper is it's the CV's alignment to the RRL, no? ICF, this is the conceptual framework. And take note, the conceptual framework should show, this is the schematic diagram of the everything you have done, no? So technically the outline of the outline here is what will constitute the outline of the paper and therefore of the CV also, no? So this is very important, as I told you last time. So CV, CF, and then after the CF, we will take two directions, di ba? On the one hand, we will do the hypothesis of the study. where you have to really consider what the statement of the problem is. So balik tayo dito. What the statement of the problem is and what are the hypotheses. So we can actually look at the hypotheses. So we said directional hypothesis. So okay. So what are the hypotheses? So we have to look at a directional hypothesis, no? I said we do not directional hypothesis basically shows that there are challenges. So for example, these are, wait, let's edit this para mag-agree sa language na ginagamit ko sa klase. Okay. Okay. So in terms of this one, no? So this is the problem statement number 1. Bakit naman ito naman nasa gitna naman? Okay. So first we can have a A. That's the first one. Ay, wag na tayo mag. So that's the first hypothesis. B, this is the second hypothesis. C, that is the third hypothesis. D, this is the third hypothesis. Ay, fourth hypothesis. Apat yung hypothesis niya. And then this is problem number 2. We can have a generic hypothesis, just as you can see here, for specific vulnerabilities. And then for problem number 3, ganito na yung itsura niya. Because this is, pwedeng isa lang yung directional hypothesis. But you see already the difference. If it's a directional hypothesis, you're expecting vulnerabilities to be present and strategies to be effective. That's what directional hypothesis is. But because the problem is if it's a null or that's going to be problematic in the end because there are no vulnerabilities. There's possibility that there are no vulnerabilities. Next is the assumptions of the study, right? So how will the assumptions of the study will look like? It's quite going to be simple. Again, you follow the one-to-one alignment, no? So if this is problem 1, problem 2, problem 3 for your hypothesis, wait, let's label it properly so that you're not confused. I can send a copy of the, well, we will just download later this one so you have a copy. So that's the hypothesis part. And then when we go to the latter part, no, we will identify the assumptions. And when we look at the assumptions will look like this. No? So we can do it also per statement of the problem. No? And this is how the assumptions will look like. You can do it in continuous statements. No need to so you can put it is assumed like that. It is assumed or it is assumed there, or here, specific vulnerabilities. It is assumed that, it is assumed. Of course, this is in outline form technically, but you can expound pa into complete sentences. There. That's how the assumptions of the study will look like, no? So these are two very important alignments. Please take note. Let's put spaces for each corresponding to the statement of the problem. Do not forget that. So once the statement of the problem comes out, it's fixed. That means you have no option but to draw out the parts of the paper. No, there's no way you cannot draw it out because they follow from each other already. Uh, of course, the other one is the definition of terms. No, and as we said, we create the operational definition. So based on the operational definition of terms, we can now identify certain definitions. Of course, do not forget that the definition of terms should be alphabetized, no? Do not actually take it as is or is, no? You have to alphabetize it. So this is just called definition of terms, of course. But most importantly, you have to define at least the terms that are there in the statement of the problem. No? So all the terms in the statement of the problem should be defined. And this is also another check here because the operational definition of terms should match at least your understanding of the concepts that was defined. So for example, we can look at Balikatan SIDEX, a joint military exercise involving the Philippines and its allies, or Command and Control C4 a military framework of interconnected digital systems, blah, blah, critical infrastructures, the essential structures of the system, and things like that. Just a minute, please. So going back, so we can look at the definition of terms. So the definition of terms, you only define the operational definitions. No? So the essential systems, for example, inside a security risk, mitigation strategies, so organizational vulnerabilities, deficiencies in institutions, policy-related vulnerabilities, technical vulnerabilities, there it's defined. So you counter check that with the statement of the problem. And if there are definitions in the statement of the problem that was not given definition, that means you have to go back and make sure they have the proper literary text, the literary basis, as well as the proper outline to represent it. But with that in place, so as I said, you already have your background of the study, no? So what are the things that we already have? We already have the background of the study. We have already the statement of the problem. Uh, we already have uh significance of the study, and then we have the scope and the limitation. That's for your chapter 1, no? That's how your chapter 1 will look like. Um, when you look at so far chapter 2, we already have in chapter 2, 1, we already have the review of related literature and studies. And I said you follow the statement of the problem. You do not put narratives here at this level, just journal articles, in fact. Technically, news normally doesn't enter this picture, but related literature will do, no? And then after the related literature, you have the synthesis of the study. After you have the synthesis of the study, you actually have the so after synthesis of the study, you actually have the conceptual framework. And then after the conceptual framework, you have your hypotheses of the study. After that, you have your assumptions. Uh, and then after your assumptions, you have your definition of terms. Until this level, when you're done with this level, you already are done with chapter 2. So on the one hand, there's chapter 1 here already, and we're done with that. One paragraph each only for the meantime. This one, the general statement of the problem, the significance of the study, the delimitation of the study. You also have for chapter 2 the outline of the review of related literature here. This is very important. At least there's an idea. The necessary literatures. Of course, you'll still have to synthesize that the way I taught you to synthesize it. Then syntheses and gaps. This is the synthesis. 1, 2, 3. The identification, and then the conceptual framework here. The hypotheses here. The assumptions here. And the definition of terms is here. So technically, you're done with chapter 2. The entire phase that you've seen so far still constitutes the conceptualization phase. No, this is the phase what we have done so far in this very huge world, very huge, very very huge realm, is to conceptualize the study. No, and conceptualization means really trying to understand the study so that you are able to really implement the study properly. No? So that's the conceptualization phase. Now we cross to the operationalization phase. No? So we need to ask, is it better done qualitatively or quantitatively? What is the study better done? No, is it better done this way or better done that way? So in reality, I think it's qualitative, no? Even if the SOP asks what is the status or what are the vulnerabilities and what are the strategies, these are exploratory and descriptive questions. Cybersecurity vulnerabilities in a military setting like PAF are often sensitive and not easily measurable by numbers. Data access might also be restricted or even classified. And therefore, qualitative research uh, procedures like interview, document analysis, or even case studies allows you to explore perceptions, processes, institutional practices that create these vulnerabilities, and that it aligns more clearly with our framework, no? So, but also quantitative approach can do this one, huh? If you design a survey instrument with indicators like frequency system updates, percentage of trained personnel, level of policy enforcement, you can actually collect numerical data. Here, quantitative methods would let you measure the extent or severity of the vulnerabilities statistically, like 80% of systems are outdated or 60% of personnel like cyber training. And this makes it easier to apply statistical tests and generate generalizable findings. But it actually depends on whether you can gather sufficient and reliable data inside the PAF. That's the question. So since this paper works with quali and quanti, of course, your best option is mixed method. No? Given the nature of the study, the mixed method is the strongest. Qualitative, because you can do interview with cybersecurity officers. You can analyze the policy documents to identify vulnerabilities and strategies. But quantitative, because you can also survey or do technical assessments to measure the prevalence of vulnerabilities across the 4 dimensions. This way, you diagnose the problem qualitatively and then validate or measure it quantitatively. No? So those are possible. But please take note, no? If you have limited access to numerical or technical data, which is very likely in a military setting, go qualitative. But if you secure PAF cooperation for surveys and or system data, a mixed method design would give your study more depth and even credibility, no? So I'll say we go to qualitative research design, which is descriptive and evaluative. Uh, uh, and then we will use KII, FGD, and document review, for example. So again, mamamatay na naman yung laptop ko. Uh, so So let's look at I think this is a better, so let's go back to the operationalization phase. And in the operationalization phase, we begin with the research design first. And in the research design, we can say that the study adopts a qualitative research design that is both descriptive and evaluative. It is descriptive because it seeks to portray the status. So there are terms that I told you we can remove status, but sometimes they even require it. But that's not necessary. It seeks to portray the status of cybersecurity vulnerabilities in the critical infrastructure of the Philippine Air Force across technical, blah blah blah. And then data are gathered using three qualitative techniques. No, it is KII, focus group discussion, and document review. No, and then through the triangulation of these methods, study captures a comprehensive and nuanced understanding there. That's the research design, and then we can look at the local uh, of the study, no? So what is the locale of the study? So sometimes this has to be in detail, no? So I'll say we can take into consideration HPAF or SEIS, Communications, Electronics, and Information System Service, or we can look at operational wings and bases that are involved in the C4ISR. Those are also very important. Or if you want, you can talk also to the ICT, but that's not actually very significant at this point already. But so we're basically interested. So in terms of so the next one is to look at three things. No, the first is the locale of the study, where the study is going to be conducted, and specifically, you cannot do selected operational wing, but because I'm not internal to the system, I'm not able to identify these. But as I said, we have to identify also who will participate. That's why in this case, you also need to identify, you also have to identify the units involved. So who are the PAF units that are involved there? SEIS, as I said, SEISAF is very important. The Air Defense Command can be also. The AETDC also, because AETDC is involved with cyber awareness, training, doctrine formulation, the integration of cybersecurity into modernization efforts. You can also consider the Air Force Communications, Electronics, and Information Systems Group. but you can also look at the wing base level or PAF's cybersecurity and IT offices within the bases and wings. Smaller, of course, in terms of the ground level implementation. Malaki actually dito. Or the AFP Cyber Group or the Emerging Joint Cyber Command, if there's such a thing. So those are things that you have to pay attention to. So for strategic, you look at HPAF. For operational, ADC, AETDC. And for technical level, maybe you can look at CESAF, AFCEISG, and IT detachments, base level IT detachments, that would play a very important role in the identification of that. And then, of course, automatically, this is a purposive sampling. So we need to apply purposive sampling to the study, because that will play a very important role, no? So you can just say, the study employs purposive sampling to identify people, and then you can identify who you're interested in. Now, of course, you can say I'm interested specifically with these people, but technically, um, this will assure you the holistic dimension of the study. No? So we have to look at the holistic dimension. Again, no, this is purely speculative. I'm just showing to you my thinking system at this point, no? How I will, if I'm going to write a paper like this, how will the paper look like, And this is what I'm trying to show to you. So, So I have to be able to think who will participate in the study, who will be my sources, like that. So I can put maybe these are the people I'm interested with. So purposive sampling to identify participants and sources of information, uh, because of because that involves specialized knowledge, operational experience, and policy perspectives. Uh, of course, even if you have to be very specific, as I said, but sometimes in the name of ethics, you cannot be specific because you have to protect also your respondents or your data sources. So, but at least you should be familiar with the holistic view that you should be able to present different perspectives, no? In that case, you need to understand who are they representing. So for technical, for organizational, for human, or for policy related. But again, take note, you're doing 3 data sources. Um, so so we'll go back to that in a bit, no? So let's look at the instrumentation phase. Uh, um, So in the instrumentation phase, I told you last time, from the concept to the dimensions to the indicators, that's what will define the movements of the study. So in this case, we go back again to the outline of the RRL, because in the process of instrumentation, and this is one of the most difficult things you will encounter, but one of the most important that you have to push forward to, no? In instrumentation. There. In the conduct of instrumentation, we need to do CDI first, no? the alignment, no? So, wait. Mm, so we need to identify what dimensions were involved, who are the respondents, the definitions, like that, no? Uh, so technically, so halimbawa, no? So what are the things that we need to pay attention to? So in the instrumentation process, so we're here, no? We need to look at, I wait. So for example, alignment, as I said, no? So this is just an example. So there are four always, and we can look at it. This is just for problem number one, huh? Dimensions for problem number one. So that means SOP one. So there you see the dimensions. So what are the major, ganyan, how frequently, what challenges do you encounter? These are just examples, no? You can be more specific, but this has to be tabulated, no? For SOP1. KII, this is KII. If you'd ask me, I even want to see, sorry. I even want to see the alignment more clearly, how problem number one is aligned to problem number two and things like that. So, so this alignment will play a very important role, no? So in fact, even the document checklist, uh, so this is what you will waste time doing, no? The comparability of the instrument. So what are the data? Are the data comparable? Are the data, what are the bases and things like that, no? Remember, the KII is a top-down view, the FGD is a bottom-up view, and the documents is the official baseline, no? The official baseline. So, for example, if there are policy gaps that are reported in the KII, you have to check if the FGD participants also fill them. And then you confirm it with document review if a policy exists but is weakly implemented. But if there are technical vulnerabilities, like for example, legacy radar systems that are cited in the FGDs, validate with the KII for leadership awareness, and then confirm in the modernization documents if upgrades are planned or not. No, that's that's it. No, so the data are comparable but complementary. This will ensure richer insights through triangulation rather than relying on one data source alone. No? So that is very important to pay attention to. No, very important to pay attention to. So data should be comparable. No, because they are anchored on the same statement of the problem. However, of course, as I said, even if the data are rooted in the same interview guide, uh, uh, they produce different different answers based on depth and perspective, which is why they complement one another. No? For example, the KII, the nature of the data normally from KII is in-depth, expert-driven, strategic insights, because these are often from commanders. So in terms of comparability, if your KII answer what is the strategic status is, or what the leadership perceives, that's very important. This provides authoritative perspective on policy, organizational readiness, and technical vulnerabilities from a systems view. Focus group discussion, on the other hand, is collective perception, shared experiences, and operational realities from base level or mid-level personnel. No? So normally the FGD answers what is happening on the ground, or how personnel experience vulnerabilities daily. That's what you look into, or those are what you consider even. Or document review, as I said a while ago, these are the nature of data of the document review is objective, recorded, policy driven, or even archival evidence. No, in terms of document review, you consider official reports, NCSP, manuals. So document review answers what is officially recorded or what is mandated. Again, no, the document review validates whether KII and FGD insights reflect what policies, reports, and doctrines actually state. No, so again, no, all the three instruments, if you have three triangulated data, you have to make three different instruments. But all three instruments should address the same questions, the same dimensions. KII, as I said, is a top-down view. FGD is a bottoms-up perspective. Documents is an official baseline. Do not forget that. And you have to cross-check each other properly. No? So again, do not forget how to do that, no? So first, you have to anchor instruments directly to the statement of the problem. Each of the instruments that you produce must correspond to the questions in the statement of the problem, like what is the status of vulnerabilities and dimensions. And please do not take note, you do not ask on the level of the concept or dimensions, but on the level of indicators. Okay? Indicators. So the RL identifies dimensions of vulnerabilities. These dimensions becomes the categories, concepts in the study. For example, Ahmad et al. 2021 speaks of legacy radar systems vulnerable to spoofing. So we can ask, how are PAF radar and communication systems currently protected against spoofing or jamming? Or from Asia Foundation 2022, this says there's a low cyber awareness. So the FGD question can be, what challenges do you face in practicing secure cyber hygiene? So literature provides the indicators. Do not forget that. Outdated systems, in this example that I am showing to you, insider threats, lack of centralized doctrine. Instruments then transform these into open-ended questions or checklist items. My suggestion is to always take a structured, semi-structured interview process. And then you have to align questions levels to respondent type. No? KII are experts. So ask strategic, evaluative questions informed by the RRL, like how adequate is the cyber doctrine compared to global standards. Or FGD, who are mid-level personnel, ask experiential or operational questions. What daily practices expose the systems to risk, for example. And then the document review, match documents to SOP and RRL categories. Does the National Cybersecurity Plan address military needs, for example? Now, take note, again, I will emphasize this over and over again. Same dimension, but phrased according to respondent expertise and data source. You also need to ensure comparability of data or triangulation. For every indicator from the RRL, design a way to capture it in three ways: KAI, expert; FGD, collective or ground level experience; document review, written evidence. For example, the indicator is lack of centralized military cyber doctrine. KAI, with the KAI, you can ask, what formal cyber policies guide your unit? Or for the FGD, you can ask, do you feel there are clear policies for handling cyber incidents? Or for document review, check AFP or PAF cyber policy manuals. So that's why I said always use semi-structured format, no? Why not open-ended? The semi-structured format allow you to make the responses comparable, but because it's semi-structured, it's still flexible for new insights, in vivo insights, as I showed you in the previous slides last Friday. Avoid, of course, yes or no questions. Use how, what, why, in what ways, and always tie back to the SOP and the dimensions. Once the draft is ready for your instruments, please do have it subject matter expert validated. PAF ICT officers, academics in cybersecurity, you can have them check this one. Do these questions adequately reflect the vulnerabilities in the RRL and the SOP? No? Revise before you bring to the field. No? So SOP sets the question clusters. RRL provides the dimensions and indicators. The instruments operationalize these into KAI, FGD, and document review prompts. No? So there has to be a instrument development matrix, no? And the instrument development matrix should constitute, ito yung sinasabi ko sa inyong dapat meron kayong ganito, no? Yung development matrix na to, no? Paano ko ba ipapakita ito sa inyo, yung development matrix na to? Sandali. I'll show it to you how a development matrix will look like along these lines. Maybe I should change the orientation. Yes. And then, okay. Let's look at this example. So you need to have what we call instrument development matrix. Let me continue, even if I close this one. There. So for example, your SOP1 is about vulnerabilities. We have four vulnerabilities, right? So you have to have the statement of the problem, the RRL source, the dimension, the indicator from literature, and then your KII question for experts, your FGD question for personnel, and your document review item. So dapat yan, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Ganito yung itsura. So this one, of course, status of cybersecurity vulnerability, organization, lack of centralized military cyber doctrine. You can ask the expert, what formal cyber doctrine or chain of command governs PAF cyber operations? FGD, do you feel policies and responsibilities for cyber defense are clear at your level? and then review AFP modernization and cyber governance documents. Example lang to, examples lang. Pero ito, dimension, ganito dapat itsura nung development matrix nyo. Okay? So, with that, we've already arrived at an instrument, di ba? So, may instrument na. Now the next one is data gathering procedure. For KII, FGD, and document review. So we need to be able to articulate the data gathering procedure. How do you prepare? What's the preparation phase? What are the key informant? How are you going to conduct it? What about the focus group discussion? What about the document review? This will also carry your triangulation and analysis phase, no? So technically, that's data gathering procedure. So here you have to identify, these are all in paragraph forms. Let's go back to our Blackboard that I was using a while ago. Well, whiteboard, it's not a Blackboard anyway. But once the instrumentation comes out, please take note of the matrix that I've shown to you. You can pause the video and go back to it eventually. Or even if you're given this video, you can pause it over and over again so that you can read and check the guidelines. But this is actually outlines only. They do not take it as if they are in paragraph forms because they're not in paragraph forms, obvious ba? These are outline only. So, for example, data gathering procedure, the researcher secures permission and ethical clearance, blah, blah, blah. Kung meron man ganyan. Schedule interview at the secured path offices, blah, blah, blah. Informed consent, each session, blah, blah. So that's how it's carried over. And then it will also say how triangulation and data analysis will be put in place. Okay? Now, let's go to, so, I said for data analysis, this should be aligned with the three statements of the problem. And for SOP1, create a single point rubric for evaluating status. Let's look at that. So, namatay na naman ito talaga itong ilaw na to. So for example, in this data analysis plan, we will see how you are able to analyze things using a rubric of sorts, no? So for example lang naman eh. So tingnan natin. Again, no, this is not real, no? Baka you'd say, where is the real study? There's no real study. Ako nangingitim. There's no real study. Minute to win it. Okay. So a good example of that is this, no? Balik tayo dun sa Word file. There. So, for example, so again, as per SOP, as I said a while ago, no? So, status, conduct thematic coding, blah, blah, blah. Each vulnerability is ever using a uniform rubric, and this is the rubric. This is the dimension, this is the indicator. Then you say weak, moderate, like that. Actually, we remove the moderate, as I said. And then organization, cyber governance, interpreted as effective, or don't use effectiveness, as I said, interpreted as comprehensive, blah, blah, blah. So the rubric allows descriptive, evaluative assessment of the status across the 4 dimensions, and data are presented in narrative forms, no? And then you do the same for SOP2, how you will answer it, and SOP3, how you will answer it. That's how it looks like. Okay? And then, so technically, this is how you organize your data analysis per statement of the problem, as I said. No? Oh, I forgot that, so then we can go to data analysis. So I forgot that in your chapter 1, naalala ko tuloy. In your chapter 1, after the statement of the problem, there is the objectives part. So maybe it's good that you try to articulate for me the objectives of this study. What are the objectives of this study? That will play a very important role also in your identification of what the paper is about. Okay? So, yung objective ng study, kailangan makita nyo rin. Okay? And then the IPOO will follow. I will not do the IPOO anymore because I already taught that in class. But sige, we can look at it also para naman sabihin yung ginawa ko yung IPOO. Pero gawin na lang natin sa Word file kung okay lang sa inyo. We can do that in a Word file also. So, just so it's just quick, no? Okay. So actually, what you can do is in the Word file, of course, this is just an example. This is hypothetical only. Do not. So in a Word file, you can actually draw a table. Wait. Hmm. Di ba? Masyado nakapapawis. It's 11 p.m. already, actually, here. But I can actually insert a table that has 1, 2, input, process, output. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 7. 7 columns. There. Ah, saan? Ayaw. Ay, basta, let's go back to the draft na lang. Ay, nahirapan na ako bigla. Parang tinamad na ako gumawa ng draft ng mag-11 na. But anyway, so let's look at the input. What you input in the study is this. On the one hand, you'll input all of these in generic form. No mention of AFP as much as possible. But you can keep the normal outline, status of technical organizational human policy, specific vulnerabilities and strategies. Even that is okay. And then aside from that, you will include the unit of the study. So a certain portion from the operationalization part, where the unit of the study will involve this one. No, actually, say ISAF, AFPCE, ISG, ADC, HPAF, and things like that. And then the process, as I said, is the objective of the study. So we go back to the study aims to assess the critical infrastructure of the PAF that is increasingly vulnerable to cyber threats due. And then The specific one, specifically the study aims to identify the status, enumerate vulnerabilities, and suggest strategies. And then for the output is also very much the same as these, no? Cyber Status of cybersecurity vulnerabilities in terms of technical, organizational, human policy, specific vulnerabilities, and strategies to address vulnerability. And the goal why you wanted to study that is to increase operational readiness and prepare and have national security. So this is the complete paper. I think I'll just download this and then give it to Miss Hannah also as an image so that you can zoom eventually. Hopefully you can zoom them, or maybe not. Maybe you'd tell me later it's not zoomable, but well, maybe not zoom because maybe as PDF. We'll see. Ay, hindi pala pwede. So, let's export first. Terms of pages. Okay, exported. Let's see where it goes. Doon. Let me transfer to me. I'll give this to Miss Hannah. Anyway, if you have questions, this is your chapters 1, 2, and 3. You might be wondering, sir, ang bilis mo namang nagawa. In less than 3 hours, you have chapters 1, 2, and 3. And of course, I would say the goal is to simply show to you the format. But in reality, I didn't study this on my own. No? I just started at 8 and started typing when you saw me typing. But everything that you see here in front of you, I was able to generate generate using AI. No? This is artificial intelligence at work. But even artificial intelligence can help you produce your outlines eventually. But that is your discretion. My goal is not to teach you how to use AI, but to show to you the things that I'm looking for with the help of which I was able to generate with the help of AI. If I was the one who is going through the SOC, I will not go through use the AI system. But for purposes of study, I hope this was helpful, and you can zoom everything to show to you the things that I'm looking for. Okay, so with that being said, this afternoon I will see you at 1300s, and be ready for consultations if you have questions, and I will answer them this afternoon. Thank you very much, sirs and moms, for being patient with me, and see you this afternoon. Have a good lunch, everyone.